Well, hi everyone, and we're excited to have today with us representatives from Eli Lilly talking about their internship program that they have coming up this summer. We're especially excited because these are not only Marian or former interns at Lilly, but are also Marian graduates. So we have with us Brenna Malistinic. No, I didn't say it right. Brenna, come off mute. Correct me.
Malatestinic.
Malatestinic, got it the second time. So, Brenna Malatestinic, who's a 2019 graduate of Marian, and Connor Smith, who is a 2020, so recent graduate of Marian. Both were former interns with Eli Lilly, as I said. Brenna is currently the associate in Lilly's Payer Access Forecasting and Reporting Unit. And Connor is the associate consultant in Lilly's Data and Analytics Unit. So we're super excited to have you guys here talking about the upcoming opportunity that you have that's next summer and telling students a little bit how to get prepared for that and what they need to look for. So I will turn it over to you guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenny. So as she introduced, my name is Brenna Malatestinic, and I am originally from Indy. I went to Marian and graduated only a couple of years ago, so I'm a proud Knight. I played soccer at my time at Marian and graduated with a degree in finance. While I was at Marian, I was blessed with the opportunity to be an intern for Lilly. And upon completion of the internship, I decided to return as a full-time. So I've now been at Lilly for over a year now, about a year and a half. And I've worked on so many different things. But right now I'm touching a lot of patient access. So making sure that if a patient goes to the pharmacy, they can actually get their drugs covered and don't have to pay a ton out of pocket. So that's what my main focus has been right now. And I absolutely love it.
Yep, and just to piggyback off of that, so yeah, I graduated this past spring, 2020. I was an exercise science and finance major at Marian, also ran track and cross country. And I did intern with Eli Lilly in the summer of 2019. And I did actually get extended an offer, and I came back, and to where now I actually just started probably 3 months ago, and currently working on the data analytics team, covering things in regards to helping patients gain access essentially, and supporting the brands in doing that.
Awesome. So we're going to go through the presentation. So we're going to kind of just walk through the Lilly overview, what we have to offer as a company, some things that we're doing. And then I know that Connor's going to hit a little bit on the internship and what that looks like because he most recently completed that better than me, closer than me. I'm a full timer now. So we're going to walk through that. So I'm going to go ahead and share. Let's see. And we can see the screen, correct, Jenny? Awesome. Okay, so our purpose. So Lilly is an awesome company, and I know in India especially, you hear it pop up all the time, but I think what makes Lilly really special is that we really care about our patients. So our purpose as a company is to unite caring with discovery to create medicines that make life better for people around the world. So I think what's unique to Lilly is everything from our purpose to our internal goals and how we treat each other really goes back to our patient, making sure that we fulfill that mission of making life better for the people around us, whether it's the patients that we're touching or the people that we work with alongside every single day. So when it comes to like our internal values, and how we just operate on a daily basis, we have three really main principles that go into that, which are integrity, excellence, and respect for people. And I do think that this is what makes Lilly really unique in the sense that you see these every day when you meet with people, right? So when we're in meetings, you don't have a ton of people talking over each other. It's not aggressive. Everybody's just really trying to make sure we can problem solve to get to the best result. With that patient end goal in mind, which is something that I really love and have continued to love about Lilly and what has brought me back every time. So I think that they're really shown every day in how we interact, all three of these. So it's a pretty big company. We're headquartered here in Indianapolis, but we do have sites all around the world. So we do have 33,000 employees. Stationed in different countries all around, but most of those are actually in Indianapolis here, which is awesome that just in our backyard, we have this awesome company that's stationed here. Not to say though, you have to stay here. There's so many opportunities and jobs as like a full-time that you can take elsewhere. If you want to go to the UK or Japan, Canada, we really have kind of an affiliate everywhere in the world. So as I mentioned, headquartered here, research and development in 6 countries. So if we think about this truly from the scientific side, where we are actively have laboratories, we're researching all of that. We have that in some 6 of our largest countries. And then we have 9,000 scientists and tech staff that are constantly trying to innovate research and start sending drugs through approval to the FDA. And then we have manufacturing plants in 13 countries, so that does include Indy. So I think something that's cool is that the office that Connor and I actually work at here in Indianapolis, there is a manufacturing site. So you can even walk through the back of the building and see insulin being created and made and packaged and distributed out. And I have a lot of friends that work in manufacturing that work in that building. So it's cool because I don't think very often you have, if at all, a pharmaceutical company that you can walk to the back of the building and see the medicines actually being created and see that the work we do every day is starting to make an impact. And so when it comes to that, we hit a little bit. Lilly has a lot to offer. So obviously, if you were to come to Lilly, you can discover new medicines if you're on the research side, new friends, which I will say Lilly is definitely one big family. While there are 33,000 people globally, I think that it is a pretty tight-knit group. I've made a lot of some of my best friends. Connor's shaking his head. I've made some of my best friends at Lilly that I live with or hang out with all the time. Everybody is so willing to help each other, and the culture when it comes to people, I think, is unmatched. Connor, do you have anything to add?
No, honestly, entirely. Because coming into like a large corporation, even as an intern, like it's a little overwhelming, but they pair you up with mentors, mentees, and stuff like that to where it's like almost like very tight knit, like a very close group. Like your team is basically like your main portion. And then of course there's this whole company doing stuff behind the scenes, which is incredible. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that part of it too is everybody's very invested in your professional and personal development as well. So it's not kind of weird, contentious, competitive to all go for the same areas and the same roles. Lilly's really good at recognizing that everybody has their own career path, whether that's going into leadership or not, or whether it's just staying very specialized in one area or not. And so the people around you, whether it's peers or your direct leaders, are really focused on your professional and personal development to make sure you're getting the most out of your job, which I think is awesome. I've yet to come across somebody who's not willing to help, whatever I ask them, and I've yet to come across somebody who has not taken an interest in just my professional development when it comes to continuing to excel. So those are just some of the pictures from our labs here in Indianapolis of either manufacturing or creating. So grow, as we mentioned, there's tons of opportunities to grow your career. People are really vested in your development, which is awesome. I think something that's really unique and interesting about Lilly as a full-time is after the internship, you have the opportunity during the internship actually to kind of explore all these different areas. So while your project may cover one subject matter, you actually have the ability to reach out, connect, talk to people in all different areas. And so after your internship, if you do come back as a full-time hire, you have the opportunity to go somewhere completely different than where you interned. And not only that, they do encourage people to move around a lot. So typically people settle in roles for a couple of years and then they can move elsewhere in the company, whether that's in their same area or something completely different. I know somebody who, after 2 years in engineering, just went over to the business side. So that's just a crazy change. And Lilly highly encourages that. And I think it also influences kind of a diversity in thought when you have people of all different backgrounds, scientists, exercise science majors, pharmacists all coming over to the business side and giving their 2 cents because they have a lot of different backgrounds.
Yep, exactly. And then that's very true. Like my internship itself wasn't the global level. And when I came back, now I'm at the operations with the US affiliate, specifically in Lilly Patient Services. So very, very changed, like a huge dynamic difference there. So like they're very willing to work with you and your interests and things like that, which has been awesome.
Yep, absolutely. So some pictures, you can kind of see our campus a little bit in that picture right there. We call it a campus because it is kind of like a college campus in terms of all the eating halls and gyms and stuff, and we'll get into that, kind of what the campus has to offer. And then Connect. So Indianapolis, or Lilly, is a huge part of Indianapolis. It's deeply ingrained in a lot of things we do. So the In This Together campaign we saw with the masks and all of that, that was an Eli Lilly speared project. And then the Lilly has done a lot for the Black Lives Matter community and hosting some just racial injustice events to bring awareness to that a couple months ago. On a yearly basis, we do a Lilly Day of Service, which is actually today, funny enough. It's a little different this year, but typically Global Day of Service, everybody in the entire company across the world will have different projects, service projects that we'll go out and do. So last year, I think I went to an IPS school, I don't remember the name of it, and we did some planting and cleanup around the entire school. Some kids were inside doing painting. So we were just out in the community getting our hands and then celebrating afterwards out to eat in Fountain Square. This year, I think you had options to go give blood, to donate clothing. So Lilly really takes a vested interest into the people around them. And again, that goes back to respect for people, integrity, excellence, our purpose of just making everybody around us better. And then Connecting Hearts Abroad is an opportunity that you have as well. If you're interested, you can apply. And you can actually spend a couple weeks out in developing countries, and they have kind of different tasks like each year. So I know somebody who went 2 years ago, and she was working with cancer patients actually over in Thailand. And then I know my dad personally went years and years ago when he still worked at Lilly, and he volunteered at a preschool in Thailand for 2 weeks, and he taught them English. So it has a variety of projects, but again, it offers opportunities to go abroad, to travel. You meet new people within Lilly that you get to spend time with, while also getting to help others. So some pictures from Day of Service last year. As you can see, everybody's getting their hands dirty out in the community. A lot of it was like landscaping and trying to clean up some of our community, and especially schools are a big one. And then team, and we hit on this again earlier. So we have a big culture of inclusion and teamwork. We have groups dedicated to diversity and inclusion to make sure that everybody is feeling comfortable, that they can share their thoughts and feelings comfortably at meetings, don't feel like they have to hide who they are, feel like they can speak up. And yeah, a place where you can bring your authentic self and diverse ideas. I think that that's something that we strive really hard on. It's on a lot of our internal scorecards to figure out a way that we can measure to make sure that everybody feels like they're being heard, they're being included, and they're not being discriminated against for being different from the people on their team. Connor, any thoughts on that?
Oh no, it is an incredibly inclusive environment, and they really stress that with the whole idea of Team Lilly as well. Just kind of backed in the whole infrastructure of the company.
Yeah, absolutely. We do have a whole Team Lilly. I wouldn't call it a campaign because now I think it's taken on it started as a campaign. Now it's a cultural shift where it really is a team. So everybody has Team Lilly shirts, Team Lilly events across the country often. Yeah, Connor's wearing sporting.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Hello. I'll introduce myself first. I'm William McCauley, and I'm a business analytics student at Marion. I'm a junior and graduating in May of 2022.
Okay.
And you mentioned earlier that the international presence is pretty big at Lilly, and that relocating is something that's very easy to do. I was wondering, at the Eli Lilly campus in downtown Indiana, how often do employees from other countries come to visit and work on projects? And is that something that you guys encourage
Yeah,
employees that live in
yes.
Indiana to do, and how does that work?
Yeah, so we have a couple different sites here in India. So how Eli Lilly is structured is we have affiliates. So we have offices that focus only on certain countries. So for example, Connor and I work in the US affiliate. So we're only concerned about US. And so our office is at a different building than that big building that you see downtown by Lucas Oil. And so there it's all of the global rules. And when we say global, the individuals at that building work a lot with the other countries' affiliates. So you could be over in the global working with maybe the Japan affiliate or the UK affiliate and individuals that are stationed over there. So you might have some weird work hours in terms of late night meetings or early mornings if you're here. But we also do have opportunities when you're looking at Lilly. We have a whole internal job posting site where they have roles that you can apply to that are in a completely other country. So I was looking the other day because it's always good to look and see what's available. And they had a job that was really interesting to me and it was in China. So if I was wanting to do that, I could apply and interview through the Lilly website to that role in China and do that. I don't know how relocation is going to look anymore, just given the current environment we're at. So it's probably going to be a lot virtually now, but they really do welcome the opportunity to do that, whether you're in Indianapolis working with others across the country, or you're choosing to go for a position or make a move over to another country to do so and stay with Lilly.
Okay. And so that campus downtown in Indianapolis, most of the employees there stay there and work with other global or other Lilly centers around the world, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. So they're helping develop global strategies, global pricing, global operations, all of that stuff. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And then again, Lilly Cares. So they care a lot about your well-being as an employee. And I think that that's really kind of shown so far during COVID. So Lilly was one of the first companies in the US to actually send all of their employees remote at the beginning of March and have us start working from home. They provided us a pretty generous stipend to make sure we could set up our home offices and be comfortable at home. Because I know that as people have kids are now home all day with them, and they may not necessarily have a workplace set up for them to be able to work on a daily basis rather than just the arbitrary work from home days that we had taken previously. So they've done that. Super flexible. Leadership has been very flexible in how we work now. So when you have people that have younger kids that have to go to school still and they have to help with online schooling and teaching, some hours have shifted for individuals, or they take blocks in the middle of the day where they have to spend with their children or childcare or whatnot. And so I think that it's been awesome to see how supportive from the top down is, especially starting with Dave and then going to some of our leadership to see how flexible they've been, how understanding they've been, and how much they encourage us to say, all right, take days off, even if that just means you're hanging out in your house and you're just not on your computer, and make sure you're taking the mental health breaks that you need, because we all know 2020 has been interesting so far. And so I love being part of a company that, one, sent us remote early, and two, really values how we're doing and continue to do throughout. Okay. And again, some of that, so when it comes to actual services we provide, so we have doctors on site that you can go see that are covered by health insurance that Lilly provides. So doctors, dentist appointments, we have all that on site if there's an issue. So you can always make appointments for that. Financial, they have Elements Financials, our bank that's on campus, and they have different branches all around. But they also provide like mortgage coverage, car insurance, or car loans, You can do financial advice through there, have a financial planner. They offer all of that. Career, again, they encourage you to move around, find what fits for you, find what you enjoy to do, and what you're good at Lilly. You can really move around. Community, we have a very strong sense of community at the company, I would say. Everybody is very close. And even if you don't know somebody and you introduce yourself, they are always going to welcome the conversation, whatever it may be. And again, social, I think, ties into that pretty nicely. So in terms of benefits, we just covered a lot of those. So we have a lot of on-site services. We do have a couple gyms. So we have a few big gyms on campus. So if you're at work in the office, you can walk over to the gym. And I think that they actually have been open at certain times since COVID. And then they have career planning. So you'll meet with your direct supervisor to help career plan and career map out maybe what your next steps are going to be. They always want you thinking next steps and what's ahead. They don't want you to be in the same role for 10 years. You can't, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's very few and far between that you see that. A very good retirement plan. So I know that we're young, but as a full-time, it's always good to start thinking about retirement pretty early, and they'll set you up for success with that. So we have a lot of employee resource groups and clubs that you can join to be a part of. So I know we have a ski club. So every year they have a big ski trip up in Michigan that they take a bus up to, and you stay for the weekend with the ski clubs. Those are fun things to do. They have, of course, we have a run club. We have a full-size soccer field, actually, turf field that has a track. So when it's nice outside, there's intramurals going on, some competitive soccer games out there running on the track. We sometimes have concert events for all of Team Lilly to come to and hang out at some of our on-campus bars. We have some on-site bars and restaurants too that are nice. So when 4 o'clock hits, it's always a good time to go hang out with your team at Reveille. And then again, like all of our fitness centers, so that you can have accessibility to gyms on site. But we do also offer through insurance free memberships if you have Lilly insurance at different surrounding clubs, including like the YMCA downtown is a big one where there's a lot of Lilly members. And then lastly, part of this would be so for groups you can be a part of. Lilly has just recently won an award for promoting women in leadership, which is important because they're always striving for diversity in leadership. So that was the event. But we do offer a variety of clubs to find yourself in. So it's ranked the number 3 of the top 50 diversity driven companies. So some organizations that you can join, and you don't have to actually identify as any of these, but you can still join them. So African American Network, organization of Latinos at Lilly. We have a huge Pride community that always has events every year at the parades. ECP, Early Career Professionals, so that's a really good one, especially as you first join Lilly, to meet a lot of people who've been around the company for a while. And then Women in Leading at Lilly are just a few of them. So I'm going to turn it over to Connor, because I've been talking for a while, to talk about Indianapolis and the internship in general.
Yeah, so kind of kicking off about Indianapolis. For those of you that aren't actually from here, there's a lot to do. I know this, you're in the Midwest and everything, but we have a plethora of sports teams. There's a lot of very socialized environmental places like Broad Ripple, Carmel, Mass Ave, Fountain Square, all these things that are literally within a 15-20 minute range of just the center of the city, which is incredible to have. And Lilly is literally right there in the center of that. So kind of tailing off of that into the actual internship itself, they tailor jobs towards you, but they also really emphasize taking stuff outside of the actual like workplace for your internship. I remember my time, they actually, had all these off-site things with your cohort where you went to like an Indians game, or you went to a restaurant where everyone got to cook and do actual team collaborations outside of their actual project. which is incredible. So yeah, as you can see here, it's a 10 to 12 week internship where they actually tailor a project towards you that fits your interests, your majors, etc. There's actually housings provided just 10 minutes off base of actual corporate center, which is subsidized for you and everything. And they actually align you with a coach and a mentor on your first day. That way they can set you up for success to really, maximize the actual internship itself. So yeah, outside of that, they're constantly putting on events and making sure you're being set up to succeed.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Okay. So when it comes to just the day in the life as
on
an
the
intern,
team project.
yep, please do. Oh no.
Oh, connection.
Wi-Fi. Gotta love virtual events.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna say I'm seeing William. Can you hear us okay? Might have to revisit that
Yes, I
question.
can't see you guys, but yeah. Okay.
Okay, we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay. I had a question on the team project.
Mhm.
I was wondering what size are the teams and how are they structured? I've been on a couple of projects and I usually take the role of the project manager, kind of, but I do enjoy like the scientific experiment of it all, like the scientific research. And so I was wondering what type of roles do you guys have for the internship that would kind of involve like the scientific research, but also involve the project management?
Yeah, so we'll get into a little bit actually directly after this of what the rules that we're offering are. So I would say that when it comes to your project, each individual intern will have their own project. And it's a pretty hefty in terms of the size and scalability of it. So it'll be a lot of work, but you'll learn a ton. And you'll also work a lot cross-functionally. So you'll work with a lot of other people and groups at Lilly that your either direct supervisor or mentor will set you up with to meet. So they'll be project partners and help you ideate on maybe possible solutions to the project. But we'll walk through kind of the big three areas of what this internship offers actually, and skip ahead to that. Yeah. So the area where we're hiring internships for is called PRA, so pricing, reimbursement, and access. So it covers these big three, right? So pricing when it comes to how we negotiate a price for our medicine, reimbursement, so key players in the pharmaceutical and insurance industries. So that's something that I touch on a lot every day as part of that reimbursement part, but also access to ensure that Lilly has access for our patients, right? So like all the great work that we do when it comes to medicines and continuing to develop and innovate, like all of that means nothing if our patients can't get it at the end of the day. So the big three, PRA, and then these get pretty confusing. So I'm not going to walk through all of these, but I'll just show you kind of high level. So when we talk about PRA and what they do and who they touch, if you look at all of those green arrows on the screen, that's essentially every space that Lilly has a hand in. So we have to make sure that the drugs can go not only to our wholesalers that supply for the pharmacy, but that they also pay our insurance companies because there are some payments involved to make sure that our drugs are involved with your insurance plan. And so all of those green arrows pretty much show you exactly where that PRA function kind of sits. So there's options to work between the manufacturer and the wholesaler from Lilly. There's options to work between the payer and the patient. There's options to work between the manufacturer and the payer to make sure that Lilly's drugs can get there. So there's plenty of opportunities. And I would say that it's maybe not so much scientific, but more on the business side of how we can get medicine. Last little, yeah. So green arrows everywhere. PRA has a role. So when we talk about the career paths and kind of the big chunks of roles that they go into, So we like to think of them as a triangle, and I actually think that this is the best way to actually describe them. And so we have roles that focus on marketing. We have roles that focus on maybe more financial analytics, and then roles that focus on strategy. And so the great thing about the internship is when you apply, you're applying not for like one specific job, but you're applying for a project that they spend a lot of time with you on to match, to make sure it fits your interests. So when I did my interview after Lilly, I interviewed for the spot and accepted the position. I met with like 3 or 4 individuals, and every time they would ask, okay, of this triangle, where do you fit? What are your interests? And I had said more of the strategy and financial analytics side. Marketing wasn't of interest to me. My project was very analytical and strategy driven, which was a perfect match. So when it comes to accepting a full-time role, the recruiters who will not be me doing your project matching, you'll have some other individuals work really hard to make sure that you're set up for success by finding you a project that fits your interests and your strengths. Because again, we want our interns to come back as full-time. We want them to excel. And we also want them to have a good experience. And I think a lot of that comes down to the project placement. So again, I want to emphasize that this is a really good opportunity. If you don't know exactly what you want to do, but you do have interest in the company and you have interest in maybe some or all of these areas, because there are certainly roles that kind of fall into the middle of that triangle that have all 3 of those. And there's some on all ends of the spectrum, either strategy and marketing, marketing and finance. And you'll work with a lot of people across the organization for all of those roles as well. So you're never going to be just stuck in Excel doing financial analysis if that's not what you want to do. We try really hard to make sure that that's not it. And we also try really hard to make sure once you're actually on campus, you have the opportunity to explore all of these areas through conversations or exposure to other projects that other interns are working on, so that if you do come back as a full-time, you can narrow down whether your project area was what you want to continue to explore, or if you want to move to a completely different side of it. Connor, do you have any other info or any additional comments on that?
Oh, yeah, just a little pieces. Like they really do emphasize the idea of, seeing different parts of the business, because at the end of the day, that's going to help you better understand how the industry works. So they really push, strategy, operations, you name it. They want you to get a feel for all of those different portions or divisions of the company.
Yep. So these are just some of the examples. So when it comes to what your career path at Lilly could look like when you started in PRA, there's so many different areas, and they actually overlaid that. So if you look at this top one, so this is actually my boss, Lauren McNamer. So if you look at her career path, so she started as an intern in PRA, and then her first role was revenue forecasting. So she went over to more of a financial role. And then after that, she chose to go to like kind of the business development side. So she worked with the arrow between that payer and Lilly, if you remember at the bottom. And so she did that. And then she moved over to do some business strategy work. So more term, long-term strategy. And then after that, we actually offer at Lilly the opportunity to be sponsored to go back to get your MBA. If you go to kind of a top 10 school. I don't know the cutoff for that. I know that's just kind of been the rule of thumb. But she actually had gotten corporate sponsored. And so Lilly sent her to Harvard to receive her MBA and covered it. And now she came back and she's leading my team, which is the data and analytics team. So that's just an opportunity. Those are some of the opportunities and what your career path could look like. Somebody that's newer. So Garrick started as an associate. He's in my class. And right now he's working with customer training and patient services. So we have call centers that our patients can call into and say whether their drugs are working for them or not. And that's actually something that Connor works closely with. So Garrick does the training for that. And really, if you take anything away from this, it's that one, all your experiences could look different. If you look at these, none of these 4 individuals have the same career path. 2, you're encouraged to move. Lauren's had 5. She really should have 6 dots on here. If you look at hers at the top. And Anoki and Kendra as well have very different roles throughout. So again, if it encourages anything, is 1, movement, 2, professional and personal growth, and 3, making sure that you find what's best for you.
And Brenna, a real quick question while you're on that slide. I know you and Connor obviously both have finance as a background, and then you've also got exercise and sports science. And looking at the career paths of these people, you mentioned, Lauren, your boss has finance. Looks like there's data analytics and econ. I'm just curious, specifically for the pricing, reimbursement, and access area, do you find that a more business focused student would be a requirement, or would this be something that's open to other students? And what are some of the other majors that would be a good fit?
Yeah, so I think that 100% open to students of all different backgrounds. So we actually have an individual on our team who just joined on in April, and he was a full-time hire after his internship as well. And he was an industrial engineer, and now he's on the business side doing business analytics. So they really encourage the diversity of background in terms of what we have in the area. I know a lot of pharmacists that don't have a business background that are very successful over in our area. I know a lot of actually biology majors. One of my closest friends, she was a biology major. She was graduated from Notre Dame, thought she was going to go to med school and didn't. And now she's working in marketing and pricing for the US affiliates on one of our brand teams. So really you can just have all different types of background, but I think it comes down to your interest and willingness to learn. So just to close out, I mean, we'll always find a way as Lilly. They're great. If there's anything, again, to take away from this whole presentation is they'll find a way to fulfill your potential. They care a lot about the people. Again, I'm going to say this for the millionth time, your professional and personal development. And it's true. That's why I keep repeating it, is they want to make sure you're set up for success. And I think that starts with the internship and making sure that if Lilly is a good fit between you and us, then we'll make sure that we match you with something that's going to be best for you to start your career with when it comes to the internship, and hopefully carry that on into a full-time role. So now I know you guys did questions intermittently, but we'll just kind of open up the floor and chat for the last 15 minutes or so.
Yeah, I really don't have any questions in particular, but I did like what you said about how you can move around the company just because, you might think you want to do one thing, you can go out and branch. But so both of you did the PRA internship, right? Okay. I'm taking notes, sorry.
Yeah, so we both completed it, and we both did 2 completely separate things. Very different. Very.
Yeah.
I had a question. I was just doing some research on some of the other internships because I'm not sure if the PRA is the best thing or the thing that I'm most interested at Lilly, but maybe more like the data scientist roles or data science roles. And I saw that you guys have a data science internship program pretty similar to the PRA. And I'm wondering if the application process and the location is the same.
So the location will be the same. Is it posted on the website?
Yeah, yes, it's the data science and solutions.
On the Lilly website?
Yes.
So when it comes to recruiting at campuses specifically, we're assigned which functions we can recruit for. So whether it's PRA, marketing, finance, individually. So right now we don't have anybody from the data science community that recruits specifically at Marion. But what I would say is if that's of interest to you, then I highly encourage you to apply through the Lilly website and do that. I will say that's going to be a lot more technical, obviously, than the PRA experience, but there are analytical roles that are involved as well. And again, if the data science one was maybe too technical for what you want right now, or PRA at least gives you exposure to the business side, you can always explore other areas of the company once you're at Lilly. So if you do the business side for a couple of years and say, all right, great, I learned a ton, and I have a lot of exposure to the business, and I know how we operate as a core company, but I really want to go over to the data science side. That's definitely an opportunity to do so as well, and vice versa. If you were to start with the data science side and decide you want to either go to the business side or other areas. But I would, in summary, I would encourage you to apply through the website if it's posted.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
And is that a jump that when you talk about moving positions within the company, is that a common thing to do, or is that like a type of role or type of jump that is usually successful?
I think it depends on the person in terms of like success, right? So if you're jumping to a role that you're not necessarily qualified for or is not of interest to you, then obviously your success level is going to be different. I'll say nobody wants you to fail. So if you do make the jump, they're going to be really happy to help you and to make sure you're up to speed on maybe some of the core competencies of that role. But also set you up for success, and they'll probably send you a million mentors to meet with, a million different people to meet with, because they're really good at connecting you with people once you're in that new role. So I mean, again, nobody's going to set you up for failure. They want you to succeed. So if you think that jumping ship to another organization in Lilly is what's for you and you think you can succeed and that's of interest to you, I think something to keep in mind is a openness to learning. Your learning agility, I think, is going to be probably the most important attribute at Lilly. You're going to learn a million new things every day. I've been there for a year and a half, and I feel like there's something new every day. And I'm sure Connor can definitely attest to that within his first few months at Lilly.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think when it comes to all of that, being a right fit, they're not going to hire you if the role is not a fit for you, and they're also not going to want you to fail. So they're going to try to help you out.
Okay. Thank you. And I had another question on the analytics projects. What type of projects are interns working on? Like specific?
Like very specifically?
Yeah. Or like what type of tasks or roles are they doing?
Yeah. So typically how the projects are structured is they'll give you a problem statement and what our solution is tracking towards, or maybe what a problem statement for this solution. So they'll just say, this is our current issue. This is what we would like. And you can spiral from there and really take ownership of the project. So for example, I just worked with an intern very closely where his project statement was, can we link access to dollars? Can we link access, so patient access, how much they can get it on insurance, to our prescription volumes that doctors are writing, and also our net sales? If you look at that problem statement, it's pretty robust and there's a lot of components to it, but you have like 10 to 12 weeks to really work on it, work with people who are subject matter experts, and get down to maybe not a full solution, but most of it. And so when it comes to those projects, we're not necessarily looking for you to have this full-fledged solution for some of our most like complex problems, but we're looking at maybe how you went around tackling it, how many people you met with, your decision-making process to arrive at whatever your conclusion was around the project, right? So it's really looking at some of the more intangibles rather than what your final product necessarily was.
Okay.
And I was going to say, like, it's typically not something like where they say do this, this, and this, and like it's pretty clear cut. Like they really focus on the idea of working with a lot of ambiguity and seeing how, you know, people from different schools and stuff like that with different backgrounds can actually tackle an idea. And maybe they do something different that the company didn't think was possible. So, you know, it's a matter of seeing different avenues in which you can get to a common solution.
Okay.
Quick question. Did you guys feel like you were well prepared for the internship, or like were there times that you were pretty overwhelmed with your problem or your
Yeah, that's a great question. So I would say, and Connor will speak to this too, your first 3 weeks or so, you're just trying to figure out left from right, up from down, and trying to figure out what's going on, especially not having I had zero experience in the healthcare industry, zero going into the internship. So I did, my previous internship was at a company that financed used car dealers. It was like a corporate company, so I did financial forecasting for them. And I did not like it, but I was like, oh, I'll just try Lilly. So I had zero experience. First 3 weeks, you're set up with 1 million people to try to help out. So my supervisor had sent me a list of people to reach out to just start connecting to learn. I probably had the same 4 meetings like 6 times just to continue to understand and learn what I was trying to accomplish. And everybody's on the same boat. Like nobody expects you to know anything about upon starting your internship. So they're trying to help you get up to speed as quickly as possible to crank out a successful project.
Okay. And so oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say the common thing is like, you know, you're drinking from a fire hose almost for those first 3 weeks where you're just trying to figure everything out. But what I did, you know, I really leaned back on like kind of those transferable skills that I have no matter what, regardless of what role I'm in, and just tried to do my best to take that and apply that with that kind of learning agility to, you know, further understand what I needed to do.
Okay. Thank you. And so I do plan on applying. So I'm curious, do you know like what they're looking for on the resume? Are there some things in particular that they want to see?
Yeah, so I think that Marian is a very unique school in that when you some of the other big schools that we're hiring against, we do only require hire from the internship for like a core 9 schools, and Marian's a part of that. So we're going up against UT Austin, IU, Purdue, Notre Dame, some of these awesome institutions. And so something being a Marian student that I'm able to keep in mind is like most of us are athletes, and if we're not, the experience that we have at Lilly or at Marian is very unique. So there's not going to be a ton of leadership experience from a million different clubs that are offered at a school with 60,000. And so what I would say to you is as you're putting together your cover letter, which is incredibly important, I think that your cover letter is actually debatably more important than your resume. Make sure that there's no spelling errors. You're able to articulate maybe some leadership experience you had, whether it was through sports, some of the 09s, maybe other external projects you've done. Make sure you can articulate a lot of those intangibles. So being driven, hard work, leadership, learning agility, other things. Yep. So Jenny, advertise that your the exchange is a good resource for that too. But again, being an alumni, I know that the work ethic of students is going to be a little maybe grittier than some of the other schools. And that's my favorite thing about Marian and the students that come through. And so we're really trying to look and hire for some students that have that grittiness, that are willing to learn, just dive into the projects and dive into the culture.
Sounds good.
And I will back up what Jenny said too. Is like I know I utilized the exchange to the full potential that it had. Honestly, like they helped me develop everything I needed to from a technical standpoint, as well as preparation and stuff like that for interviews and whatnot. So I do recommend that. Like that is always an incredible resource that is just there for you. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to utilize it. I didn't really utilize it much with my last internship, just because I went through a program. But yeah, now I'm gonna have to definitely utilize it. Is the deadline October 2nd? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So the October 2nd is the deadline to get your application in. And again, we highly, I can't remember if I marked it as a requirement or not. But if not, I mean, really focus on that cover letter because I think it speaks a lot about the student and how well they're able to articulate their experiences, but also their interest. So if there's one piece of advice I'd give to you guys, which you guys have the leg up since you're here in attendance, is make sure that cover letter fully expresses who you are, your interest in the company, and like why you would be a good asset. And then also make sure those experiences are reflected on your resume. So October 2nd, deadline, and then we are interviewing 2 time slots right now. So we're gonna have 2 applicants that we're gonna interview when it gets closer to the date around October 6th.
Will those interviews be in person or virtually?
They'll be virtual.
Okay.
Yep.
That kind of goes to, I believe we're looking at Wednesday, October 7th, between 10 and noon.
Oh, yes.
Kind of the plan
Yes,
when those will likely be. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I misspoke. I was a day off because I forgot we had moved on for my interviewer.
And so, William and Tyler, or anybody else who watches this and decides you want to apply, all the information is in Handshake for the internship position that's available, with the deadline to apply through Handshake on October 2nd. But from there, me and Brenna and Connor and anyone else from Lilly who weighs in can let us know the candidates that they're wanting to move forward with, and then we can look at getting those scheduled through Handshake. But yeah, that's a good question, William. But definitely a virtual interview, and I'm sure Brenna will be sharing the platform and information about how they plan to schedule those.
Yeah, I will. As we get closer to the date, I'll share with the candidates that we're choosing to interview and move forward with. And we'll let you know. I'll let you know either way. So say you went through and we choose not to interview you, then I'll let you know either way that we at least reviewed your application. So we'll be in contact regardless. So I guess last thing, I know we only have a couple minutes. Last thing I would say is if you're interested, feel free to connect with me one-off, whether that's LinkedIn, Handshake, email. I don't know if my contact information is attached to this, but I know it's in Handshake, my at least Lilly email. So don't ever be afraid to reach out if you have any additional questions, if you just want to chat for 10, 15 minutes, get maybe further in-depth details. Connor's willing to help as well. So again, don't hesitate.
Sounds good. Thank you for your time. I got to get going. I have a class at 2, but I'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. It was nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you. Thanks.
Well, thanks, William and Tyler, for being here. And Brennan and Connor, thank you so much for your time in advance for connecting with our students. And we'll just connect further as we get those applicants in. But really appreciate you guys sharing your expertise on what that experience was like from your perspective. And excited to hopefully have some Marian candidates in there in the future who are then going to able to come back and recruit just like you are now.
Yeah, our hope is to expand this, so we'll have 4, 5, 6 different alumni on this call.
That would be awesome.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording real quick, but thank you guys again for your time.
Of course, happy to be here.